since DNA was discovered and analyzed, major progress has been made in science. And it's actually the discovering of life, because DNA is the guarantee that the end result would be what it was purposed to be. And growth is sparked by DNA. Every time a cell replenishes, the DNA is copied. And when DNA is copied in a cell and little changes are made, that is what creates aging. And if they can keep the DNA of the original, that is why we have the science of stem cells. We go back to the original. So if we go back to our origin, which is laid down in Genesis, our purpose is, and we can step right into what God has actually purposed for us. And we'll understand that we were made in the image and the likeness of God, not to any animal or furry or anything else, but we are made in the image and the likeness of God. In the natural, if we want more, we had to add or multiply. And it's like it's just a gathering, but then it goes down into a decaying. But to divide is to really grow. And that keeps life going on and on. We find this principle laid down, and God said in the garden there would be trees. On day 3 of Genesis, God made vegetation. And He said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb, yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielded fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. We read in 1 Corinthians 15 that the seed does not even look like the fruit itself. And we all know the saying that you can count the seed in an apple, but you can't count the apples in a seed, because the seed is a principle of ever growing, not multiplying that will end in total destruction because of the natural processes. No, growing is an eternal thing. So when eternal life starts growing inside of us because of a seed that's planted, we already stepped from darkness to light. And this seed within us is an ever-growing process. And in the kingdom, God's intention was that we will all grow into the full image of the full stature of the Christ, back to the likeness and the image we were already created in. This growing process started within God Himself, when He said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. From the bosom of the Father, He sent forth Himself. He sent forth His Spirit, and His Spirit spoke everything into being. The first dividing. And we see the first 4 days in creation is dividing. Dividing sparks growth. Genesis 1, in the beginning, God made the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The deep was waters. When sin multiplied, the fountains of the deep opened, and the heavens opened. And God said, let there be light. And John 1 tells us, in Him was life, and the life was the light. This is why we find vegetation before there was a sun or a moon or stars. So there was no natural time yet, and life was sparked on the earth because of the light that God gave and brought forth from Himself. In other words, He gave Himself to creation from the beginning. And this is when He built the tower. He counted the cost when He gave life. When Adam sinned, He said, Adam, where are you? And His voice went after Adam. Adam couldn't see Him, but God never stopped going after Adam until His Spirit now indwells man. And John says in the book of Revelation, the voice is now behind us. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. This is what Moses saw on the mountain 2,600 years after Adam, he saw the goodness of God passing him by when he wanted to see the glory of God, the glory that man fell short of. And God saw the light, it was good, and divided the light from darkness. And from this point on, everything was created in light. And he called light day on day one. This is a spiritual book. So day one means the first perfect period. And light day is the first perfect realm. And God never created anything in darkness. Verse 6. And then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Another dividing. He created water above and water beneath. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which is above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. In the beginning he made a heaven, and now he made a heaven. These are principles laid down. When man fell, time took on this floor plan of principles that will lead us back to where Adam fell out of, the image and the likeness of God. And God called the firmament heaven. Every time heaven was in agreement with the earth, a world was formed. When God called Abraham, he said, in your seed and in your seed in the generation. And there was a split in provision, which correlated with day 2 and formed the world that would finally bring forth the Christ, which formed the shadow of the good things to come. But the good things of God is always there in every generation, to everyone, in every cycle and situation of life. And it was evening and it was morning the second day. Evening and morning is a pattern that was set down, that was followed, and time broke forth, because Jesus came and he said, the people that sat in darkness saw a great light. He will come to us like the morning, said Hosea. And Hebrews tells us, today if you hear his voice. This is all linked, and we cannot read this in separate stories, but we have to understand the volume of the book to understand what kind of seed is growing inside of us. Then God said, let the waters under the heaven begin to gather under one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and he gathered it together, the waters, and he called it the sea. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, herb, yielded seed, and fruit, yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. When God divided the waters and the land, immediately the principle of DNA was laid down, and vegetation became the fruit of humanity. And it was in the form of seed that will ever be present. And the earth brought forth grass and herb, yielding seed, and the fruit tree, and the fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And it was good. Evening and morning the third day. And on the fourth day, the principles of time was laid down as a guarantee that if man failed, that time will break out as a detour of death, where God brings us back to life. So we are still in time. When we see him, we will be like him, because everything will be wrapped up in him. And this was all set up from the beginning. And on day 4, the light now made 2 great lights, a greater light to rule the day and a lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. And he set them in the firmament of heaven. The third heaven correlates with the time that Christ came onto the earth and started a new world. Glory be to God in the church, a world that will never end. These lights were to rule over the day and rule over the night. Light Life himself said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, to divide day from night, First, there was a division between darkness and light. Now it's day and night. And let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years. Day and night divided the day of death, because Christ came in the morning. Mercy came in the morning. Grace started from the flood, but mercy came in the morning. David says, goodness and mercy will follow me. So these were foreshadows. Everything in the Bible is connected, and we cannot read it and understand God's purposes when we just go for separate revelations. In spite of Adam plunging us to darkness, there is light upon the earth, which is nothing but the goodness of God. Evening and morning, the fourth day. And from the fifth day, God started filling the waters and the sky and the land, and that all leaded unto rest. But we know that when Jesus came, he said, I work and my Father work. So the time of rest is yet to come, because Adam's disobedience hijacked God's purposes, but God's plans were set in the heavens. And in time, we realize that God went right to the point of dying for us, being obedient to bring us back right to his bosom where we came from, image and likeness.